What's up guys, this is Pseychie, and today I want to showcase one of my favorite and possibly the strongest weapon that came from the recent crossover update. I'm talking about the baseball bat. This little seemingly insignificant weapon is the crossover item with Hotline Miami, and boy let me tell you, this has got to be some of the best fun I've had in the game for a while. So immediately when I tried it out, I realized just how powerful this is. The reason being is that its critical hit condition is very easy to meet. The other thing being that it is a brutality and survival item, meaning there are multiple ways to satisfy its crit condition. So we're gonna take a look at what this little thing can do for us in this upcoming run. Now, you can obviously play this in survival too, but today I want to try it in brutality, because there are actually some interesting ways you can stun and root enemies, even in brutality, even though rooting and stunning is more of a survival kind of archetype. So we're off to an interesting start here. We don't have any support skills that give us any kind of root or stun, and you'll see me take some unnecessary damage here and there. Probably a bit more than I'm used to. Times like this really makes me consider just restarting the run, but I was glad that I chose to just stick with it, because I found a sizable amount of food in the prisoner's quarters, so there's a bit of luck involved there, but in the toxic sewers you'll see me probably take a lot more damage, like from that little zombie thing. I have no idea why the melee attack does so much damage, but there you go. Same thing goes for the scorpion. If you get poisoned, like half of your health is gone. So make sure to get some health back from the rally mechanic. Now, I won't focus too much on the early game, as I do think when this build is fully completed, the result is something really spectacular. Of course, I do want to show the footage of me clearing through the toxic sewers while on low health, because it's just a little bit more interesting. And when it really comes down to this, I wouldn't really blame myself too much for playing that poorly in the early game. Worst case scenario, I just die here and lose like 5 minutes of progress. In this run, I just decided to tough it out. I got lucky with food in the prisoner's quarters. I don't think I will get lucky for a second time. And then we find one of the stars of the build, which is the phaser. Now, something that phaser can do is that when you use it, the enemy will be stunned, or I guess rooted for a brief moment. I'm not sure if this is intended, but that is what it does. And while it is rooted, you deal critical damage. I've definitely compared this to the grappling hook, but I do think the grappling hook works a little bit better because you actually get to face the enemy that you're hooking in, whereas with the phaser, sometimes you teleport and it just points your character in the opposite direction, and then you have to turn around. But because the root just lasts for so little time, you really have to know where your character is in terms of positioning. But nonetheless, this is still a really good thing to add to my roster this early into the game. And on top of that, phaser and the hook have a damage boosting modifier, so your next hit or so will do extra damage, so that's always nice. So I'm gonna enter the corrupted prison and re-roll the affixes on my bat, and if you saw it really briefly, I rolled into some really amazing affixes. And here is where I'm deciding to make a comeback from having low health. So in the mutation selection screen, I picked Alienation. This is, in my opinion, one of the best comeback tools in the early game, where you just pick it and then you just restore all the way to full health without using up a flask, assuming that you don't die. And the thing is, this is so early on in the game that even if you do die, it's not that bad and will at most serve as a learning experience. And lifting 15 curses instead of 10 is really not as bad as you think. Obviously, you're gonna run into some problems with those giant birds, but luckily the phaser is able to tough everything out. So at the end of the day, each Dead Cells run is really about how you adapt to different situations. I would say, of course, there is some degree of luck involved when it comes to like finding food or scrolls that happen to be in your favor. But as you can see, I started out with some pretty poor performance, which got me down to like 30% health, but I was able to make a comeback, as you can see. So really the point I'm trying to get across is that this game does not require you to play perfectly. You absolutely should and be expected to make some mistakes here and there. So at this point, I'm just waiting for a grappling hook. Now, you realistically only need one of the two, either hook or the phaser, but I just wanted to run both just to see how they compare in terms of DPS. And I find one in the shop, but something's weird about the grappling hook. If you saw there, the affixes didn't even show up. I don't know why. I thought it was a bug, so I picked it up just for the hell of it to see if it would actually work. and the grappling hook works fine. It's just that it has no affixes. I don't know why this is the case. It's probably a bug with something to do how they reprogrammed the grappling hook to fix its damage scaling modifier, and it somehow messed with the affixes, or something like that. But the hook works perfectly fine, it synergizes perfectly with the baseball bat, and the damage boost is still pretty good. And in the Ancient Sewers, we're gonna start to get a glimpse of just how powerful this thing can get. Now, you heard it right here, but I firmly believe this item will be nerfed in the next patch, because I don't think something this powerful should be in the game. I think one of the issues it has is that it actually deals the damage before your character actually completes the swing. So when you're swinging the bat, you expect your character to swing the bat first, and then after you hit the enemy with your bat, after the animation is done, then it deals the damage. If you look really closely, when you deal the critical hits, the damage just comes out instantly as soon as you press the attack button. This just may be a thing with this item being incredibly fast, but I think there is something else here. Not that I am complaining, of course. Oh, so something else I forgot to mention that's probably on everyone's mind right now. Thank you all for 50,000 subscribers. I did not think I would actually get this far, and rest assured I do actually have something planned for this occasion. But in terms of subscriber count, this is as much as I would have imagined. I don't plan on doing anything too different. I have said this in a previous video, I don't plan on going full-time with YouTube, so I'm just gonna do videos that I enjoy making, but if I end up getting more popular, that's great. If I just end up hovering at around 50,000 subscribers, that's fine by me as well. But speaking of which, we are approaching on the holiday seasons, and this is the time of the year where I'm more comfortable with just uploading more often. And speaking of which, I have a huge upload plan for early December. It's gonna be something of a discussion surrounding the idea of a live service roguelike. I have been working on it for a couple weeks, so expect it to be at least 30 minutes. The script I have written so far is very long. Anyways, we are coming up to the conjunctivious fight. I originally just wanted to use the grappling hook to kind of reel this giant eyeball in, but for some reason the hook doesn't work all the time. It only works some of the time, which is a little bit annoying. So instead of using that, I just decided to use phaser. Just causes much less of a headache. I also decided to switch things up a little bit and choose the scheme mutation, which increases the damage after you use a skill. In this case, both of my skills have relatively low cooldown, so that's the one I went with. Unfortunately, I don't think it's as strong as some of the other mutations because the damage that it gives you is a flat boost, not percentage based. And ever since Corrupted Power, we all know how broken percentage scaling damage boosters can be. But with the sticky nature of the phaser, we're just able to breeze through this fight. Unfortunately, I did get tagged in the second phase a little bit, but in terms of the damage, in terms of the build, I think this is a very solid weapon to build your items around. And survival, you got actually dedicated items like Wolf Trap, you got Crusher that stuns, you just got the stun grenade, as well as the newly introduced throwable object, which is yet another crossover item that synergizes perfectly with the baseball bat. But at the same time, you also have a lot of options in brutality as well, namely phaser and the grappling hook, but there are ways you can think outside the box, such as the cleaver, which I do believe kind of stuns the enemies. So there we go, conjunctivious is down, and we're gonna continue on. Now, something I heard you guys mention in my last showcase video is that you wanted a longer length, and I plan to do exactly that. I don't know how long it is supposed to be. How I do my videos is that I only show the interesting bits, or at least what I think is interesting. So I'm looking at the length of this footage. I think this video will be around 20-something minutes long. I personally think this is like the suitable length for these kind of videos, but if you want videos to be like 30-something minutes long, I can absolutely do that. Alright, let's talk about the build. From this point on, we pretty much got the perfect loadout. We got both phase and grappling hook in case one of them is on cooldown or just doesn't work in some weird scenarios. I decided to run a shield because I think the baseball bat is just so fast. Having a shield just mitigates all weaknesses that you need in your defense. Shields in general are just really powerful, but in this case, I don't think we need another kind of damage support like Firebrand or anything like that. Maybe if you needed some affixes, but in survival you can definitely run this with the throwable object, which is, I believe, a support weapon that just straight up stuns enemies. So I'm gonna get the curse here, and we're just gonna move nice and slow. There's no need to rush through curses. It's a dangerous situation to be in, but it is one that you can get comfortable with. So I just left a door with a bunch of enemies in there. I just saw that there are enemies here, and I just decided to leave it when I got the curse. This is a strategy you can do to make sure that you have enough enemies to lift the curse. And look at that, I am doing so well I don't even need the food shop. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering what those two icons next to my key is, it's essentially one of the two of the three keys you need to unlock the skin from Slay the Spire. I believe you find the last one from a food shop, though I don't know why it didn't appear in the one I just went to. So the guide to unlocking every single crossover skin has been revealed, you can probably find it on Reddit or Discord. But some of the requirements are really weird. I will be going for them if I have the time, as some of them have really unique properties, unlike anything we've seen in skins in the past. So I don't know if you noticed, but with the Hotline Miami skin, your mask actually changes every time you enter a new floor. So I believe it rotates between the rooster mask, and then there's one with a koala, and then there's another one with a horse. And I'm gonna do something very greedy here. I chose survival in the skills shop, and I decided to fish for a wolf trap. This is because I'm not sure if the Scarecrow, the boss that I decided to face in this run, can be rooted at all. And if it didn't, then just having the phaser and the grappling hook is going to be pretty awkward. So I wanted to have a little bit more insurance. Of course, it was pretty greedy, as I didn't lock any skills in custom mode, and then you'll see me fall off the edge, which is pretty embarrassing. But I know for a fact that with the wolf trap, you can at least root bosses to a certain extent. Again, I'm not sure how well it works on the Scarecrow. I don't come to this boss very often because it's just a very frantic fight. And I'm gonna find another curse chest, and of course I'm gonna go for it. I mean, you see a curse chest, you take a curse chest. But this curse really isn't that bad. As you can see, at this stage of the game, because the build is just so finalized, and I have a ridiculously higher than usual stat count, I'm able to just breeze through everything. And this is one of the weird dynamics with Dead Cells, is that the game arguably gets easier in the late game. Of course, you could argue both ways whether or not this is good game design or not. But anyways, we're coming up on the Scarecrow fight, and I decided to reroll my affixes, and I landed a damage boost on both rooted and poisoned targets. So that is a huge win, and I'm going to just go into the Scarecrow fight and just melt through this boss like it's nothing. Of course, being the careless individual that I am, I did get tagged there, so I did lose the no-hit. But we're going to fight the DLC area. Again, the Servants and the Queen, both very frantic boss fights, and you really need to have the right loadout for them. But luckily, I think this build can handle it, and it does very well, as you can see a bit later. So I'm gonna spend quite some time on the Infested Shipwreck, and it really only dawned on me just how huge this biome is. I do like the level layout, it's very unique, unlike anything we've seen in the game, and the enemy design is a little bit iffy sometimes if you don't have the right loadout to deal with them. Some of them just attack so fast that you really want something instant to react to every single scenario that you come across. But with these long corridors, something you can use is just the grappling hook. Just make enemies come to you, and you don't ever have to worry about being caught in the crossfire. So grappling hook, despite being nerfed, I still think it's a fantastic support skill. At this point, even though the baseball bat technically counts as a burst type of weapon, since you can deal crits constantly if you just keep spamming it if the enemy is stunned or rooted, but in this case with the damage modifier of grappling hook, it just instantly melts through anything on the map. And of course we'll get to see this in effect once we get to the Servants and eventually the Queen, but this is a nice little preview of just what we can expect when it deals with endgame enemies. So once again, I got Wolf Trap here for a bit of insurance against the bosses, and I'll be honest, I did get a little bit lucky with the skills rolls in the shop. So it's not guaranteed that you will get the wolf trap, but as you can see, it does not matter that it is a survival weapon, because all I realistically only need it for is the rooting potential. And vice versa, if you run the baseball bat in survival, I'm sure if you have the grappling hook or the phaser, it really wouldn't change that much at all. Of course, I don't believe you'll have access to some mutations that are really good in brutality, and then of course, I run into spikes, which ironically is the only form of damage I took in this biome, I believe. So again, very embarrassing, but with the amount of ease that this build gives you, I really can't complain that much. You really should be expected to take some damage every now and then, and I decided to fish for the food item, even though I actually completed the biome a couple minutes before I found the food, because I knew it was going to drop from an enemy, and I was rewarded. So we're coming up to the Lighthouse. This is the only section of the boss fight where you can't practice, which I think is a shame. And when it comes to the Lighthouse, there is so many strategies that I wouldn't say there's like a definitive best way to handle it. I know some people just like to knock the enemies out of commission before you even reach the boss arena, which just prevents them from chasing you altogether. I believe I am gonna try to do that, but I wasn't too confident with the Lighthouse climb. Some of the movement and stuff just really throws me off, and you actually have to watch like which direction the boss is facing and how its projectiles can ever reach you. So against the Mace Servant, this is only really a preview of how frantic it can get, but as you can see, once we get into the Calliope boss fight, I'm just gonna throw down Wolf Trap, and yeah, the health bar is just gone instantly, just like that. So it looks like I did make the right decision of taking Wolf Trap for a extra bit of insurance. And here I wanted to knock out Calliope before the Archer Servant showed up, but it looks like I was too late. I believe I will try to knock one of them out of commission. I just have to wait for the right moment, but unfortunately I do get tagged there. And that's really one of the issues about trying to flawless the Lighthouse, is that the risk of trying to make your life easier is just very high. Like if you try to defeat the servants before getting to the boss fight, yes, that will make your climb much easier, but the risk of doing that is very high, as it's so easy to get chipped in this sequence. And even if you successfully take out one of the servants, you still have to worry about the rising flames, because I believe if you get tagged by the flame, it also discredits your no-hit. With the Wolf Trap, the MVP of this build, I was able to breeze through both of the boss fights. And then I get a little bit too greedy here. I wanted to make my climb a bit easier before Cleo showed up, because I believe Cleo is the most dangerous out of the three servants. You really don't want to get hit by these scythes. They just do so much damage. But after I knock out Euterpe, the Archer Servant, I'm just gonna book it. I don't really want to deal with Cleo. This is probably the most dangerous portion of the Lighthouse run, and at this point I'm just focused on getting up this tower as fast as possible, because I do think dealing with them in the official boss room is at least easier than the run. So we're entering the final servants fight, and it's something I like to do is just climb up onto the platform above me, because Cleo will always open up with that 3-hit combo with these scythes, and that's just something you can avoid if you just jump on the platform. So this becomes a bit of a waiting game. I have to wait for the Wolf Trap to refresh its cooldown, but once it does, I'm just able to get in so much burst damage, and the Wrecking Ball Servant is down. I'm gonna try to knock out the Archer next, because I do think she's the second most likely to go down in this fight. I just throw down my Wolf Traps prematurely, and there you go. So we only have Cleo to worry about. Again, this is the most dangerous servant out of them all in my opinion, and I will honestly prioritize dodging Cleo's attacks before anyone else's, but I believe that is a flawless servant fight. Really doesn't happen too often. Unfortunately, I still don't have the Lighthouse Flawless achievement, as you do have to flawless the entire Lighthouse. So we're up against the Queen now, and again, just trying to do the exact same shenanigans with the Wolf Trap. It's very effective. So we're gonna dodge the reality slices. Again, this becomes a little bit of a waiting game. Just wait until the Queen goes into the Wolf Trap, and then, yeah, that is a lot of damage. So I believe this is the second reality slice phase. I'm able to just dodge this with ease because what you can do is just slowly walk to one side of the arena and it will never hit you. Like maybe you have to dodge every now and then, but yeah, that's it. That is the entire run. So hopefully this was an interesting build to showcase. I definitely had a lot of fun with this broken weapon that was added from the crossover update. So hopefully this motivated you to give the baseball bat a try. It is very powerful. So that's gonna be it for this run, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. Enjoy the ending, and I'll see you all next time.